push it out so that I can see it. Okay. I have artwork, and it's by a guy whose name is fun to say. Jan van Eyck. Jan van Eyck. Okay, all together. 1, 2, 3. Jan van Eyck. Oh, he's fun. This is another one of the Northern Renaissance artists from the 1500s. And he, guys, you should go online, look up Jan van Eyck Khan Academy. Khan Academy has some amazing videos where they take you a deep dive into these pictures. And I can't, I show you these pictures and I want to zoom in, I just want to grab it, the zoom, because the detail is amazing. If we got a magnifying glass out or something, or if we saw it full size in the original, oh my goodness, the detail this man put in. So the first one I brought in is called The Annunciation.
You bought it?
Well, I have a collection of these. I have 10 of these. And a lady who used to come to Scole, like 5 years ago, they were moving away, and she had a whole set, and they were all labeled of various great art and all framed, and she was selling them. I saw on Facebook Marketplace. I'm like, look at your pictures. So I have a whole collection of these. So this Annunciation, I'm gonna recording, but that's too bad. So what do we mean by the Annunciation? What is the event of the Annunciation? What does that mean? It is called the Annunciation. Gabriel tells Mary she's going to have Jesus. She's going to have a baby. That is the Annunciation. It sounds like announce, right? He announces to her, hey, guess what? And so, but where are they? Here, I'm just gonna, they're like, do you see? It's very elaborate. I know it's kind of hard to, can you see? It's almost cathedral-ish. And okay, question. Would there have been cathedrals in Mary's time? No. And so our question is Jan van Eyck stupid and he doesn't know this? Or is he making a comment? He's saying, perhaps, this event, it affects all times and all places. It happened for him 1,600 years ago, but it's now too, because Jesus is still alive. What Jesus did lasts forever. So I think sometimes, when Renaissance artists dress people up in what was for them modern clothing, it's not because they're ignorant, although it could be a little bit of that sometimes, but it's because they're making a statement. So I got to point out a couple of the little details. Do you guys see lines coming down? It's shafts of light coming out of this window. And do you kind of, and in it, I'm going to put my finger by it, there is a bird in the shaft of light. And it is a dove. Do you see it coming down? Why a dove? Why a dove? Peace. And what else are they a symbol of? Yes, and who descended as a dove? The Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit. Because he said, the Holy Spirit will come upon you, and you will conceive and bear a son. So he's got this detail in. And one other detail, I'm not even going to bring it around because you won't be able to see. There's little golden words in front of their mouths. Little tiny, do you see the little tiny lines? And he is saying, Gabriel saying, Ave grat plen, Ave gratia plena, hail full of grace. This is Gabriel's greeting to Mary. And Mary answers, Ecce ancilla Dei, behold the handmaid of the Lord. Except, and I love this, her words are backwards and upside down. Because she's answering, so they're backwards, and they're upside down. When you look at it from this version, you can't really read. But when I look like this, I can. Who else might be looking like this down on the scene? Kind of God. She's talking to God. So her words are backwards and upside down. And they're from God's perspective. I love this detail.
That guy.
That's cool.
That guy. He has like 60 billion IQ.
He really does. But if you think that's great, I brought something even better. Except I need a sip of tea first. Mm-hmm. That is the correct attitude. Okay, this is a small version of what is actually an altar piece. This is the front of a church. Like this is in the altar of a church, this whole huge painting. So it's bigger than life size, right? And so in the top, we see Mary and probably John. You might see here again, we have the angel Gabriel and Mary. Here, I'm just going to, it's a shame to not walk around. And I love the fact that he put in between them like part of the room. Just that there's room separating them. And it's got like trees and streets. There are people walking around on the street, little tiny people out the window. It's amazing. And then the bottom, tell me about these two things. What do they look like?
Xander.
Hey, Xander, come on in.
Wait. Hey, bro. I'm always.
What do these two things look like? Where my finger is.
Statue.
They look like statues in little alcoves, but they're painted. They're painted to look like statues in an alcove. And then these guys are the people who paid to have this done. Like they're members of the church. And like, would you put us praying to God? Yes, I will. Yes, I will. Awesome. But on feast days of the church, they open it up. I know. So on special days, you come into the church and it's like this. It's big. And we have, God in the middle with Mary and John.
They actually open it.
Yeah, it's physical, like it's on a wall, and they open the doors because this is big. It's big. And then everybody in the congregation, when they come to church that day, gets to see. I'm not showing anybody on the video. They get to see it in all its glory, opened up. And so, again, we have added God and Mary and John. We have choirs of angels singing. Every angel has a different expression. Like they're all, you make funny faces when you sing sometimes. You know what I mean? And they're doing that. And then this angel's playing a pipe organ. And seriously, I looked this up online. Not every pipe is the same. Some of them have little dents in them. You kidding me? And then Adam and Eve, obviously, because this is all for them, right? This is because they sinned, right? This is why this needs to happen. In the bottom, we have all these throngs of people coming to this place. And you guys, again, if you look up Jan van Eyck, it's called, if you're curious, it's called the Ghent altarpiece because it's in the city of Ghent, right? The Ghent altarpiece. And they have a two-part, you could watch it in 15 minutes, 10 or 15 minutes, this video. But if you could zoom in, you would see that on this little altar in the middle is a lamb standing there. Why? Why a lamb? Yeah, the Lamb of God. What were you going to say, Zach?
What was the name of that website?
Oh, Khan Academy. They do lots of free videos for homeschoolers, and they're very solid.
It's got YouTubers on the website.
No, I think if you just Google that, I don't know. I always just comes up like in a Google search, and whenever I see it's from Khan Academy, I click on it. But they're videos. They are videos. This lamb has a little hole poked in its side, and blood is coming out of the little lamb into a little cup because it's the communion cup, right? The blood of Christ. And every group of people is different. There's a group of soldiers, there's a group of peasants, there's a group of monks, priests, like everybody's coming to the lamb. This thing is one of the masterpieces of all world history. It's amazing. I don't think the Netherlands is really on my bucket list, except I did spend a lot of time in the Amsterdam airport a couple of times on my way somewhere else. But I would love to see this for real, yes. Oh, yeah, let's close it now. And Xander, I think I have your sentences. And I don't know, did you have a revision for me of the Bard Arkenstone thing? And if not, that's okay. I don't remember who. Is that yours? Okay. Is this one yours? We'll keep trying.
I think I have one.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's okay. You can hang on to it. And if you have a revision, you can get it out and leave it up here for me. Okay, Jan van Eyck. I'm telling you, on the videos where you can see close up, the detail is astounding. And I thought it was interesting. I brought this in for the high schoolers. We looked at this. This is one of the Giotto, the Italian guy. And it's just not the detail level is just different. It's a different style. Of course, there is over 100 years between these two guys. Maybe a couple hundred years. So art changes. Do you know what I mean? But in this case, I think it's a style thing too. In the North, are you guys familiar with Rembrandt? He's pretty famous. He's from the North too. He's Dutch. So we have these super duper detailed portraits and things like that. And in the Italian, it's just sort of kind of ethereal and flowy. And the thing I like about this one is every angel is making a different gesture and face. Like they're all grieving over Jesus's dead body, but some are, oh, you know, every single one is making a different face. But I think it's a different style. Anyway, Jan van Eyck. He did another one called the marriage or something like that. And it's these two people standing and getting married, but there's a mirror behind them. And you can see reflected in the mirror, like the person painting the picture as if they're outside. Oh, the detail. I love it. Okay, let's move on to science. How many of you are, I know, like you can't escape anything in here. We're going to, Asher, it could just be anything in here. We could talk about anything. Buckle up. Today is the history of science. How many of you guys are just really, like, have a science bent? Like, that's your favorite subject? You feel like, okay, yeah. My husband is an engineer, so he's more of the science and math sort, and I'm more obviously of the reading book sort. But some things happened during the Renaissance that changed science. Do you remember? Oh, it was probably last fall we talked about this. A guy named Roger Bacon.
Oh yeah.
Not Francis Bacon. There's two Bacons. Roger Bacon. Does anybody remember what he was saying people should do, Zach?
He said that we should find things out through observation and experiment instead of just thinking that
Yeah. We should make observations of things and collect data, which sounds very modern, doesn't it? It's like the modern science. He was not the first person to say this. Aristotle even said that the way to know things was through sense experience. You know, we sense them, we see them, we touch them, we feel them, we taste them, and then we know about them. But they had, was Zach said exactly right. There had been kind of a, you know, we're going to take authorities, not just church authority. Sometimes it's Aristotle's authority, you know, it's anybody's authority. But we're going to get our information from books. And maybe the information was right. Maybe it wasn't right. So Roger Bacon had said, you know, we really need to get out there and observe things. But it didn't really catch on for a while until they started, two things come together. There are certain things we can't see without having certain instruments to help us see them. Like Mike likes it. We can't see germs, so we have microscopes. And we can't see the heavenly bodies until we have telescopes, right? So let's step back. And before all of that erupts, let's talk about Leonardo da Vinci again. The first question I asked you was, what did Leonardo da Vinci do with his time besides paint? Hans. Yes, architecture, anatomy. Let's talk about building things in architecture. What do you have to know to build a building? Yeah, give me some specific examples. Well, yes. So you need to know something about math and geometry. You need to know something about maybe what looks nice and what doesn't look nice. What is the most important thing you want a building to do? I really don't want my buildings to fall down. And so there is a whole line of mathematics discovering how to build things so they don't fall down. Do you know what I mean? This is my husband's job. My husband is a structural engineer. So they send him plans for a bridge or a building or whatever. It's like, make it not fall down. So he tells them, well, the beams here have to be this big, and the foundation has to be this deep, and you have to add extra supports here because of the wind shear and blah, blah, blah. That's what he does. Leonardo da Vinci could do all that himself. He could figure out how to make a structure, because I'm telling you, if you put me in charge of building a building, don't ever go in that building. Fall down. But his would not, because he was brilliant. He knew the math behind it, the science behind it, and the what we call aesthetics. This looks nice. So, and then Nathan said, anatomy. I think I showed you Leonardo da Vinci's sketches of the inside of a body, right? The muscles, and remember I brought in his sketchbook. Was that a week we didn't meet? I should, oh shoot, I'll try to remember to bring that in again. Because there was, oh, okay, it was on the video. Well, it'd be nicer if you could see it in person. I didn't know you guys missed that week, and so I should have brought it in today. He has these detailed sketches of skeletons and things like that. And you might say, Mr. Da Vinci, how did you know what it looked like? Well, they started cutting up bodies. For a long time, this was just not cool. The church said, look, this is disrespectful to bodies. And even today, they don't just pick anybody and send them to medical schools. You have to sign a form. You have to donate your body. You can do that. You can sign papers that say, I donate my body to science, and then students will cut you up, I guess, after you're dead. But for a long time, people said, no, 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 we don't believe in that. But they started, people did it anyway, kind of on the sly, But what can you learn from opening up a body and seeing what's inside? Anatomy. And how does that help you? What's the practical use?
Like if you gotta give someone a shot, you'll know.
Okay. If I have to treat you medically for a condition, I really ought to know where the stuff is in there. You know what I mean? So I don't hit the wrong thing. I'm going to start understanding why people get sick or hurt and what's happening in there. So Leonardo da Vinci was on the cutting edge of that. It says, Dorothy Mills says he also studied the science of optics. What is the science of optics? Scopes. What makes a telescope work? What? Oh, the lenses. So, okay, Hans has glasses. Jonathan has glasses, and Jaden has glasses. Okay, we have a lot of glasses in here. So, how do your glasses help you see?
They have like these kind of like it's kind of it's just a type of glass.
It's not a type of glass, but it's the shape. Exactly. So this is so Science Day. But it's very cool. I love this. So because for years I had to wear glasses all the time. And then they did the laser surgery on my eye. They changed the shape of my eye, and now I can see. So, here's your eyeball. Oh, you have eyelashes, and then your eyeball has a back, right? And this is where the picture needs to focus. So look at this lovely tree, when you're looking at this tree. And the picture comes in, and the light from this comes in. But what you want it to do is come in and focus right on the back of your eye. You don't want it to focus back here, and you don't want it to focus here. And it's the shape of your eye that makes it focus. It bends. Like this is a piece of glass, okay? And the light hits it, and it bends it a little bit. And then the one in the middle goes straight through, and then this one, it bends it a little bit. Does that make sense? And if it goes the other direction, you see the light comes in, and it bends it the other way. This is the kind that's helpful for seeing. This just makes it worse, right? Don't get glasses that do this to you, and then you're going to be blind. So they measure your eye. I think it's amazing they can do this. When you go to the optometrist, they put the thing, is this better or is this better? And it goes on forever. To see exactly how much curve they need, and they put that in front of your eye, and then it bends the light and it focuses it right where you need it to be. So they didn't have glasses yet in Leonardo da Vinci's time. Those of you who wear glasses, or me before my surgery, too bad. You're just going to stumble around. You can't see. That's your life. Good luck. But he did start playing around with these lenses. What can curved glass do? And he's running light through it, and he and several other people discover that you can bend the light in such a way that makes tiny things look bigger, or things that are far away look closer. It's like, ooh. So, and obviously we already said this is going to come in handy with telescopes. This is how telescopes work. Magnifying glasses, even, things of that nature. So Leonardo da Vinci, he wasn't finishing his paintings because, but his mind was very busy in other things, and he developed he developed things that are going to come in handy later. What according to him, what is the mother of stupidity? Nathan, impatience. What does that mean? Impatience is the mother of stupidity. What does this even mean? Yeah.
Don't take shortcuts.
Okay. What happens when you take shortcuts? Okay. They say shortcuts make long delays. I think it's from a book, but I can't remember which one. I want to know something. I want to know it really bad, but I just want to get straight to it. And I'm going to leave out important steps. Say I'm building that house, that building. I just want to get it done. I'm going to do stupid stuff that's going to make it fall down later, right? When they were building cathedrals, often they would collapse and kill people. Not the finished cathedral, but in progress. Frequently because the guy in charge of building materials just wanted to get it done and also save some money. So he bought cheaper materials that couldn't withstand the weight, and it would collapse, kill people. Impatience. I don't know if you need to hear that, but I need to hear that. Impatience is the mother of stupidity. I just want to get, I'm reading a book and I want to get to the end. You know what I mean? And so I just start skimming through. I'm missing the best part of the book. Leonardo da Vinci may have not been impatient. He was certainly kind of scattered, doing lots of different things, but he wasn't impatient. You can't be impatient and invent things, I feel like. Do you guys Edison and the light bulb?
Yeah.
How many times did he try?
200.
Yeah, well over 100 different light bulb, long enough to make it work. And he said, well, I've found 100 ways not to do it. I've eliminated them. I probably would have quit at about 5. This is never patience. Okay. So let's move on to Copernicus. In the ancient world and in the Middle Ages, what did they believe was in the middle of the solar system? Hans. The Earth. So we have a solar system with the Earth here, we'll call it E, and then all of the 4 planets that we know about, 4, 5, 6 maybe, plus the sun and the moon go around the Earth. I'm not going to draw all of them, you get the idea. And you know what? That's not a stupid thing to think. Doesn't it kind of look like that? I mean, and we even say the sun came up this morning. No, it didn't. The Earth turned towards the sun. They don't say that. It was a beautiful Earth turn this morning. Nobody says that. Why would we say sunrise and sunset? Because that's what it looks like. And so it's very reasonable to think this. But it wasn't, how do I want to say this? It was more complicated than it sounds. So they believed that on the biggest, farthest out sphere were the stars. Because don't the stars kind of look like they're all the same distance away? I mean, there's like a big thing with stars on it. We know now that they're not, but that's what it looks like. So they said, we have these stars and that sphere revolves. All right. So do you ever go out at night and look at a constellation? How many of you know how to find at least one constellation? Okay. Which one? Orion is the one I can find. Because it's really, because those three straight, the Big Dipper. Yeah. And do you ever watch, like if you go out when you can first see it, and then you go out a few hours later, it's somewhere else? It's moved. So the stars are all moving. I mean, we're moving, but let's talk about what it looks like. The stars are all moving in this even way, but then there's little points of light that don't go along with them. Planets. They're in different places. They don't stick with the stars. Do you know what the word planet means? They named it planet because it means wanderer. A planet is a wanderer. Like, dude, you were not sticking with the stars. You're here, you're there. So they knew they were something different. And the thing is, they don't really look like they're not always in the place you'd think if they were just going around the Earth. Sometimes Venus, did we talk about this? Sometimes Venus is in the morning and sometimes it's in the evening. Did we talk about how to find Venus? Okay, so if you go out, if you get up early for whatever reason, and you look kind of towards the east, if you can see the sun coming up, it's kind of light, you can see things, but there's one star left and it's in the east, it's Venus. It's Venus is the morning star. But sometimes if you go out and the sun's going down, if there's one star, super bright, and you can't see any other stars yet, and it's kind of in the west, it's the evening star, it's Venus again. You're like, what's the deal with Venus? It's here, it's there, So the medieval astronomers had this all worked out. They said, somehow we need a model that takes all this into account, that makes everything be where it should be at the time we see it. This doesn't cut it. So here's what they thought the planets did. So this is a planet going around, but it went like this. Sometimes it went backwards. And it's called an epicycle, the little spiral. And they had a complicated series of epicycles because sometimes it's moving forward and then it moves back. They said, okay, this is what it must be doing. So it was super smart and mathematically complicated what they did. It just doesn't happen to be accurate if you fly out and look at things, But they didn't know. They couldn't do that. And they didn't have telescopes yet. So this seemed very reasonable. And then Copernicus blows it up. What did Copernicus think was going on? Yeah, Hans. Mm-hmm. I think the sun is in the middle, and the Earth is going around it, and the Earth is also revolving. And you know what? People didn't jump on board immediately, but people didn't attack him or anything. It's okay. This is a reasonable hypothesis. We have two ways to explain what we see. One is our little epicycle thing going on, and one is what if we're going around and the sun is still? This could also explain it. There's a guy in the 13th century, 14th, named Occam, William Occam, I think. And maybe you've heard of Occam's razor. Not the razor that you shave with, Like a razor means a postulate. Zach, what is Occam's razor?
I've heard of it.
Oh, okay, you've heard of it. Here's the rule. If you're coming up with a theory, use the simplest theory. The one that's least complicated is probably true. Maybe not always, but that's what he says. So we can have this deal going on with all the planets, or we can just put the sun in the middle and have us go around and we don't have to do this anymore. And according to Occam's razor, okay, that's simpler. Right. But people still treated it like, okay, well, there's just two ways to look at the world. You can have Ptolemy's way, which was this. You have Copernicus's way, which is that. It didn't really make a lot of waves, So he made that step. Does anybody remember what? Okay, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to take the time to do something here, really briefly. Dorothy Mills said something in your book that I don't really like. I don't totally agree with. She said that when it changed from this system to the sun being in the middle, that the church and everybody was upset because it seemed to boot man out of the center of the universe. The medieval people didn't really believe man was the center of the universe. They believed the earth was. But here's what they thought theologically. The farthest out circle, the one with the outside the stars, this is the stars, okay? They thought it was this big sphere called the prima mobile. It moved, and then it made this one move, and this one moved, and it made this one move, and this one moved, it made this one move, and outside of this was the Empyrean. This is where God is. When they looked out into space at night, it reminded them how very far away they are from God. This is the important place. This is closer to God. The stars are closer to God. Everybody's closer to God than we are. We're like in the pit, far, far away from God. Do you kind of understand what I mean? And so that's what they thought of the universe. They went out at night like, oh, God is so far away. When they switched it up and now it's the sun in the middle, all right, it might be accurate, but I think that people today talk more like man is the center of everything. You know what I mean? We'll call our own shots and do our own thing. It's kind of backwards. Like those people, the earth was technically in the center for them, but we're so far away from God and where it's all happening. We're not in the center, but then we live our lives like we're the center of the universe. I think it's kind of interesting. Okay. Kepler. I didn't ask you a question about Kepler, but let's throw him in. Does anybody remember what Kepler's amazing mathematical discovery was? You've heard of Kepler, I bet. Like he always throws his name out. His claim to fame is one particular theory. It is this. I will not keep you in suspense. Everybody, for all of time, had thought everything, whether it's the sun going around or the earth going around, everything goes in circles. Why? Because circles are perfect. I don't know why circles are perfect, but a circle is a perfect shape. Everything's the same distance from the center, and it's symmetrical in every way, and so they love circles. And they said, everything outside of the moon is perfect. That's what they said in the Middle Ages. The moon obviously is not perfect because it changes all the time. Perfect things don't change because then they wouldn't be perfect anymore, right? And I'm sorry, but every night you go out and the moon looks different. But can it not make up its mind what it wants to do? It just keeps changing. Says, oh, that moon, that's messed up. It changes all the time. And we know things change on Earth. And why? Because of sin. But they said out there beyond the moon, you know what? Everything is perfect and nothing ever changes in those wonderful circles. Nathan.
So, I heard a wild theory, but I'm not gonna say it all to you. It was from Haunted Cosmos. It's one of the newer episodes.
I like the sound of this show already.
But so I heard that people sleep worse during the new moon. And I heard that no, actually it is true. There are many scientific tests, and people just sleep worse even if in a dark closed room and they don't know.
The moon, I agree 100%. Did I tell you the story? I don't think I did. I think I told the high schoolers. Years ago, I heard a nurse, like a nurse that works in the place where you go to have the baby, the obstetrics ward. And more women go into labor on a full moon. When it's full moon, they're going to be full house, women coming into their baby. Like the moon affects us. It doesn't set your destiny or anything like that. You know what I mean? And that's, why sometimes they thought the moon made people a little wacky. So if the moon is affecting you, are a lunatic. Luna means moon. A lunatic is someone who's been driven crazy by the moon. Yeah, go ahead, Nathan.
So I've also heard, like that Luna, that was derived from Luna. so I heard also that it brings less pain if you give birth on a full moon. And also
I wish I had
think-
known this.
I don't think Haunted Gospels has gotten to the subject, but the subject of werewolves, maybe.
Yes. Yes. I mean, it's fascinating what the heavenly bodies do. So anyway, everything up to the moon they thought was under the influence of sin, changeable. But everything in the heavens is perfect. Kepler came along, and here was his big thing. I have done the mathematical calculations, says Kepler, and nix on your circles. They orbit in ellipses. You know, an ellipse is like a egg, right? He said this is how they orbit. And we're like, whoa, Kepler, are you telling me there aren't perfect circles out there? Yes, I am. Well, we don't like that. Too bad. That is what the math tells me, and we know this is true. You know, that everything orbits the sun in the solar system in ellipses of various shapes, but not circles. So, okay, at this point, people are starting to freak out a little bit. Wait a minute, are you telling me that not only is the Earth, the sun is not going around the Earth like it looks like, but things aren't actually going around in perfect circles? This takes us up to Galileo. Galileo, I asked you, what instrument did Galileo make extensive use of in his research? What is it, Nathan? Telescope. I brought in this book. It is a little children's book about Galileo called Starry Messenger, but it's got little quotes out of books and journals and things that Galileo wrote. And I wanted to read to you a couple of things here. First of all, Galileo was cool. He proved Aristotle wrong about something, which is huge. Yes. Do you know what it was?
About that, things with, it doesn't matter how much weight.
Yeah. So you guys familiar with the Leaning Tower of Pisa? So he went to the Pisa, you know, because he was Italian, and he dropped things. It was very convenient because you won't go along the edge of the building. It's kind of leaning out. Aristotle said that heavy things would fall faster and lighter things would fall slower. But here's the problem: Aristotle didn't go drop things, and the problem is if you just do it from here, it happens so fast it would be hard to tell. It really helps if you can get up high and drop things, which is what he did. He said, "Hey, let's test it out." So he brought things of varying weights, like rocks of varying sizes, and they all hit the ground at the same time. Now I realize if he had dropped a feather, it wouldn't have hit at the same time. But do you know why? Not because it's light, but because it's surface area. It's wind resistance, right? It catches the wind and it floats on the wind. So in a vacuum, have you guys ever seen a vacuum tube? Do you know what I mean? Like a lot of times physics teachers will have them. You can pump, it has a feather and a rock in it. And you can hook it up to a machine and pump out all the air. Okay, first, before you do it, you flip it and the rock falls and the feather goes, and then you pump out all the air and you flip it and they just, the rock and the feather, no air. They fall together. So Galileo had already made a name for himself, doing stunts like this. And anybody who can prove Aristotle wrong about something, they got some brains going. So he, okay, this is from his letter, a letter he wrote. A report reached my ears that a certain Fleming from Northern Europe, Dutch or Netherlandish, had constructed a spyglass. He means a telescope. Upon hearing the news, I set myself to thinking about the problem. Finally, sparing neither labor nor expense, I succeeded in constructing for myself so excellent an instrument that objects seen by means of it appeared nearly 1,000 times larger and over 30 times closer than when regarded with our natural vision. It says in parentheses, the word telescope was coined 2 years later in 1611. Tele means far away or from a distance, and scope means see, right? You see it from a distance. First thing he did is he looked at the moon. And the moon has all sorts of rough places, and he explored it. And he started putting his findings in a publication, and it's called The Starry Messenger. Here's the full title of the book: The Starry Messenger, revealing great, unusual, and remarkable spectacles, opening these to the consideration of every man, and especially of philosophers or astronomers, as observed by Galileo Galilei, gentleman of Florence, professor of mathematics in the University of Padua, with the aid of a spyglass, lately invented by him, in the surface of the moon, in innumerable fixed stars, in nebulae, and above all, in four, listen to this next part, in four planets swiftly revolving about Jupiter. What does he mean? Four planets revolving about Jupiter. Moons of Jupiter. This is second step in head exploding for everybody. Are you telling me that the planets have their own moons? Yes, I am. I don't believe it. Well, look through the telescope. I don't know. What are those things? They're going around Jupiter. I can watch them. Year ago, 2 years ago, Jupiter was as close as it's going to be for a while. And we have a telescope. It's not very fancy, but it's nice. We took it out on the deck and we saw 2 of the moons of Jupiter.
So then it must have been pretty close.
Yeah, it was very, very cool. And and people are like, okay, wait a minute. The sun in the middle. Okay, now you took away my circles and you gave me ellipses. Don't love that. Now you're saying that out beyond the moon, like they have their own moons and stuff's going on. He's really rocking the boat here. Yeah, Zach, what did you want to say?
I just think it's so cool that like we just take that as fact. Oh, it's humans are Jupiter or whatever. But these people thought it was the most exciting thing.
Yeah.
Their whole lives around it.
Yeah. No. He was amazed, and people were amazed. So he published what he had found. He observed sunspots. He said even the sun isn't uniform. He saw solar spin. I don't know how. Obviously, he can't have looked through the telescope at the sun. But there are ways to so, some sort of filter, or more probably we can do that. I don't know how to do it. I did it once in eclipse with my kids. You can use a pinhole in a construction paper and then, cast it on a piece of paper, and you can actually watch it happen, and you can see spots on the sun and everything. Did we talk about the eclipse on April 8th already in here? Okay. Yeah, okay. So even here, you'll be able to see part of it. So here's Galileo was celebrated. Galileo was famous, but here's the problem with Galileo, and I'm gonna talk about this a little bit of length. Oh, and we just blew up the last question, right? Why were Galileo's discoveries unsettling to many people? Because it rocked the perfect solar system outside the moon boat. Here's what you always hear. The church hated Galileo because the church hated science, and it wanted to shut down all learning. And so they persecuted Galileo and they threw him in prison and blah, blah, blah. Now, I'm going to tell you the other side of the story, okay? Galileo ran around telling everybody that what he thought was going on in the solar system, that's fact. It's fact. It's fact. I've proven it. I know it. And the church said, for years we knew that the earth was in the middle. For years we knew that they were circles, not ellipses, for their orbits. We're not comfortable with you saying, oh, but we have all the truth now. Galileo, could you just call it a theory? No, I can't. Oh, I know. Turns out that parts of Galileo's theory have not proven to be true. He did not know, but he wouldn't budge. And the church said, okay, how can we come to an agreement? And Galileo said, okay, what if I write a book? I'll write a book, and it's going to be a dialogue between 2 people. Somebody supporting Ptolemy's theories and somebody supporting Copernicus and all my new discoveries. And they'll, the one guy will present one side, and then the other guy will present the other side. It'll be this nice dialogue. And the church says, you do that. Wonderful. And then give equal time to both. He wrote this book, but the guy who had the old theory, He gave him a name that meant stupid. And then the guy supporting his theories, he gave him a name that meant he was super smart, And then the guy named Stupid said stupid stuff and didn't really argue very well. And then the other guy just blew him away, and it wasn't fair. The church read this and like, what do you not understand about a balanced treatment and having both theories? So at this point, they haul him in for questioning. And he says, I will not. They didn't ask him to say his beliefs weren't true. They asked him to say it's a theory. It is a possible model. Like, no, I won't say it's possible. It is the model. At this point, they said, Galileo, you can't do this anymore. They did not put him in prison. He was under house arrest. He had to stay home. He walked in his garden. He did gardening. He could go out. He even continued his observations, like from his courtyard at night, and wrote stuff down. They just said, you can't publish it and disseminate it. We don't approve. Now, on the one hand, do I think that's okay? No, I don't. That they said you can't leave your house and you can't publish. I'm not saying that's okay. But I am saying that he wasn't as persecuted as it sounds like. The guy would not give an inch. And if he'd written a decent dialogue, or he'd said, okay, you're right. Science, new discoveries change ideas. It is possible there might be new discoveries that could change my ideas. He wouldn't say it. No, I'm founded. I'm at the end of the line. I found all truth. This is the actual story of Galileo. So every time somebody says, oh, how wicked the church was, look what they did to Galileo. Just keep in mind that Galileo was kind of snotty about the whole thing, but super smart and dedicated to what he did. Now, next week, you guys are going to read chapter 10, which is about the age of discovery. You got to remember something. This 100 years, 150 years with Copernicus and Kepler and Galileo, this is the same time that Columbus sails and the Spanish are going to the New World. I mean, people's minds are exploding in more than one direction, if you know what I mean. Like what? Wait a minute. So the Earth is not the center, and there's people and land on the other side of the Earth that we didn't know about for thousands of years? What? People living completely different ways of life, and eating. There are different foods growing over there, for crying out loud, that we didn't even know existed, and these people are eating them, including chocolate, which is so important to the history of the world. I think so, eventually. They drank it. It was like they didn't put sugar in it. So if you've ever had super dark chocolate, like 90% cacao or something like that, just melt that into a cup and drink it. It's a little coffee-ish, but that's what they did to it for a long time before they discovered. And I feel like I should have a whole class on the discovery of if we put butter and sugar in with the chocolate and turn it into bars. This was a major discovery that never makes it into the books. So that is a really brief sweep through science, through astronomy. But I just cannot express strongly enough how unsettling it was. I'm trying, I think I've said this in here before. It would be like if tomorrow they announced that we had signals from aliens on another planet. Like we had definite contact. And then suddenly something that we speculated on, or I'm personally not a big supporter of the idea that there is intelligent life on other planets, just for theological reasons. And also because I'm not an evolution supporter. And so like God would have to create them specially. But is there more than one creature in the image of God? Do you see what I mean? There's theological problems. But I don't know everything. And if they announced tomorrow, we've discovered intelligent beings on another planet, that'd be what these people felt like when they reported there's land and people on the other side of the world that is no longer in the center, and the sun looks like it's moving, but it's really not. And it really rocked the boat. Yes, Nathan.
I do think there might be an unintelligent life somewhere on the planet. That would be cool.
Could be.
Like not intelligent.
God did make it all, and he can populate it if he wants to. You know what I mean? But I just have a problem with anything equal to man, because then what happens to the image of God? And then Jesus can't be, if they sinned, Jesus couldn't be incarnate as them. Jesus is forever man. You know, he didn't go back to what he was before the incarnation. He's got the body forever now, the one he didn't have before. And he can't get another one. So anyway, this is not important, but this is why I personally don't think we're going to find anything like that. But what do I know? You know, if we did, it would really stir things up. And this is how these people were stirred up. Okay, so next week, read chapter 10 about the second stirring up. There's people on the other side of the world doing their own thing with their own style of clothes and laws and everything. Let's move on to this paper. Now, could you guys get out? Hopefully you still have with you. We started a chart, just to jog your memory. The idea is, for the next paper, that I want you to write this week, okay? That you are at the Council of Elrond in Rivendell. I do not care who you are. You can be a character out of Fellowship of the Ring that's actually there that talks. You can be a made-up character. I had my Dwibbly the dwarf last week that accompanied Gimli or something. I don't know. I would like it to be, first of all, it needs to be sentient enough to give a speech. So not a rock listening to the Council of Elrond. And also of a type that would reasonably be there. So it's probably going to be, you know, a man, a dwarf, an elf, a hobbit, a wizard. I was thinking an ent. You met ents this week, and no ints. Now I realize that it's unlikely that ints, being the way they are, would want to leave the forest and walk all the way to Rivendell. But it's your made-up speech. You can be an ent if you want to. Did I leave any sort of group? I don't think you should be a black rider or an orc, because I don't think that they would really be welcome. Yeah, a hobbit. Chilbo the Hobbit. And so you have to make up a little, it doesn't have to be a long story, but like why you're there. Like, oh, I am Pippin's best friend and he couldn't leave without me, and so he wanted me to come. Something like that. It doesn't have to be like his life story or anything. All right, does everybody follow that? So you're choosing a character, and then what you're going to do is you're going to, in your paper, stand up in the council and say, either we have to destroy the ring, or we should so not destroy the ring. We should use it. I want you to pick a side. Now, last week, we found 3 solid reasons for keeping the ring, right? And you should have a paper with all those written down, and get those papers out. If you have those papers with you, because we're going to add to it. You might remember that we ran out of time, and I promised we would finish this week. So you will have 3 reasons for each side. So whichever side you pick, you're good. And each of your reasons already has 3 supports. So I almost have written this. I mean, we've written this paper together, sort of. It's not going to be very hard. But last week, we were doing 3 reasons to destroy the ring. And here's what I wrote down really quick. Oh, I've got a solar system in my way. Well, I asked you to think of reasons, but let's write what we got, and then we'll open it up. And I also made some stuff up so that if you guys didn't have something, I had something. Here was our destroy reasons. Number 1 was the ring is evil. And I did not write down our 3 reasons. Do you guys all have that written down somewhere with 3 reasons? 3 examples of why the ring? Okay, that I paraphrased. Ring corrupts people, whatever. Just something of that nature, all right? Okay, yes, the second one is future is bleak if ring not destroyed. And then did we get 3 supports for this?
Yeah.
Okay, so you have 3 things written under that? We don't?
I thought we had like one.
Okay, so what? Oh, we didn't have anything?
No, we didn't have it.
Okay, then we need to pursue this. Can you guys help me? What is our support for this statement? Why would we think that? Yes.
You can't hide it anywhere. It's just gonna find it sooner or later when we go.
Okay, ring. So add this down, write this down in case you want to argue on the side. Ring can't be hidden. And you know what? I'm gonna.
It makes it so futile.
Yes. That's like support for that. Sauron will find it because he's super powerful. And exactly what Jonathan said. I like that. The ring itself wants to be found. It left Gollum. Well, it left the stream and went to Gollum, right? It made itself known to Deagle, and then Smeagol took it. It left Gollum, and Bilbo found it. And now, like I said, Bilbo's the only one who's laid it down. The ring wasn't in charge there. Sauron wasn't in charge. Bilbo was in charge, with some help from Gandalf, granted. So the future is bleak if the ring is not destroyed. You can't hide it. Sauron's so powerful, he will find it. And the ring itself is cooperating with him, calling out to the Black Riders, calling out to Sauron. Okay. Now, did anyone think on this? Do we have a third reason why? Come over here and do it over here. Why the ring should be destroyed? I have one, if you don't, but if you guys thought about it, my third reason, I don't love it, but do you want me to give you my reason?
Yeah.
Okay. You guys, I have the 3 supports, but you guys are going to give me the 3 supports. I'll help you.
What are all the types of people I guess?
Oh, okay. So men,
Yeah.
like Aragorn, dwarves, elves, hobbits, wizards.
There's also like people who are all in between in the time point.
Yes, yes. So do you mean like they're half and half races or?
Like they have all the traits of like elves.
Okay, yes, yes. So I think a lot of them are men. Like Butterbur is a man,
Yeah.
and it was just kind of a meeting place. But there are people like Elrond is called Elrond half elven. Elrond is human on one side and elvish on the other side.
Imagine a guy who's half everything other than
Oh,
half
that would be awesome. He like his grandparents were this and that.
Yeah.
Okay, here's my offering to you. If you don't like it, we'll find something else. But my third reason was all the wisest people say we should destroy it. The wisest voices seem to think we should destroy it. All the wisest say destroy it. Now, can you think of 3 wise people that said destroy it? Who said destroy it? Give me one example. At the council, they said it must be destroyed. Who's one person who said that?
Lord Elrond.
Lord Elrond. Elrond, who's super old, he fought in the battle like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago when they took out Sauron the first time. Who else that we have a lot of respect for the wisdom of said, you got to destroy it, it's the only hope? I think Gandalf. Gandalf certainly said, we got to destroy it. Now, I was kind of, I was doing this in my head. I'm like, okay, I need a third. I've got a third in mind, and I'll give you a hint. He's human. What human says we need to destroy it?
Aragon.
Aragorn. Aragorn says, you know what? I often want to say Aragon. Have you guys read the Aragon books? Do you know the Dragon Rider?
Yeah.
Christopher Paolini.
My brother.
The first one's really good. The second one's okay. The third one's meh. And then just a new one came out. He wrote another one. Do you know, he was homeschooled. Christopher Paolini, author of Aragon, homeschooled young man who wrote this book in his teens and then just like made millions of bucks because they made a movie out of it and everything. Okay, that's my third. That's what I came up with. Does anybody object to that one? Does anybody have a better idea than mine? Because you might. Should we stick with that one? Okay. Does everybody have that copied down? Is there anyone, because I see pencils moving, but you could just be kind of drawing. Is everybody got it drawn, got it written down? Can I erase it?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you good, Zach? Well, here's what I'd also like you to write down. I want to remind you what goes in each part of your paper. And remember, this paper is you talking, right? So you can say, I say that we should do this. You can be you can give it a lot of flair. Do you know what I mean? Just a really fancy speech, lots of energy, all right, and emotion if you want to. Here's what I want to see. In your introduction, some of the things I'm going to recommend are stuff that you would normally see. Some of them are going to be something special for this because it's you giving a speech. First thing I want to see is, who are you? Tell me who you are. Make up a name for yourself. Excellent. And then as you tell me who you are, what is your story? In other words, you don't have to say, I was born, just go back to your birth, unless you want to. But why, in other words, why are you here? Where do you live? And what motivated you to travel all the way to Rivendell to come to this meeting? Yeah, Nathan.
So would it be proper if I used I and
Yes, that's exactly what I'm telling you to do.
so
You're speaking first person. Yes. I say we should keep the ring and destroy Sauron with it. Okay, you can do that. So I want to know who you are, what your story is. That's kind of the backstory part. Then I'm going to ask you for a couple of things that are going to look familiar. What is your position? Do you say destroy or keep? Which one are you arguing for? I want to know that in the introduction. And then I'd like you to tell me give your three main reasons, your three big reasons. That's what I'd like to see in the introduction. If you give me that, you won't see your paper back saying, would you please revise this? But if we're missing something, I might say, you need to add that. Okay. Does this make sense to everybody? Are there any questions about that at all? Are we good? Okay. Then your next three paragraphs will look very, very, very familiar. Reason one, with your three supports, right? Reason two, and you know what? You guys have these all written out on that piece of paper sitting in front of you. So you don't even have to think them up. We thought them up together. Reason three. And does everybody know why I'm drawing three lines? Like it's your three supporting reasons. And then we have a conclusion. You guys know what we normally put in a conclusion. What is something we normally put in?
Three main reasons.
Restate, beautiful. Restate your three main reasons.
And then we say the best.
Yeah, give. I was gonna say most important, but best is so much easier to write. Give best reason and why it's the best, and why it's best. All right, I see. Jaden kind of leaning for. Can everybody see? Okay, go. You can get up and go where you can see. Don't worry about it. Just move yourself if you need to. And if you can't read it, ask, and I will tell you what I wrote.
Next time, can you use black markers?
Yes. Would you like me to switch over to black marker right now in case I write anything else? Is red just hard to read? I've got this. Does this one? Oh, that one works. Okay. I got one of those packages that comes in all colors, and I wish I had just gotten one that, because now I got purple and pink. Am I ever gonna? And I kind of exhausted the nice black ones. I'm like, okay, I guess I need. Why do they even make? All right, we won't. We won't. I guess they make white. Dry.
Yeah, they make white.
Surely,
I was
Are-
being sarcastic.
are there black? What are there? Well, no, a blackboard means something you write in. A black dry erase board. Yes. Okay, this is. I'm just. This is rocking my world. I can't handle it. All right, I'm gonna just shut up for a minute and let you guys copy that down before it goes away. Okay. Okay.
I wrote my entire conclusion, right? So good.
Well, good for you. Good for you. Oh, and so let me add this too. I will add this in black. We are going to add something new to our papers. But let me give you the list of all the things we've been doing, okay? I'll do it over my camera shows this side of the. Okay. We have parallelism 1 and parallelism 2, right? 3 words of the same sort in parallel, like 3 adjectives or verbs or whatever. 3 phrases or clauses. We've been doing that since the very beginning of the year, so I think we're probably good on that. Strong verb. You've got a lot of chances. You're giving a speech and you want to move people. Destroy is a pretty strong verb, but maybe you can even think of a stronger verb than destroy. What are we going to do to the ring? Feel free to look in a thesaurus. You know, I asked you not to do that when we did the copia exercise. I don't care. Look up words. Don't care. Find something that pops. And a simile. Keeping the ring would be like, I don't know, like hosting a tiger in your backyard. It's going to turn on you eventually. That's not a very good simile, but. This would be, don't use this one because it's kind of hackneyed, it's overused, but like holding a tiger by the tail. Have you ever heard having a tiger by the tail? You know, if you had one by the tail, what do you do with it? I mean, you don't want to let it go. But you can't, but it's going to turn on you, but you don't want to let it go. 'Cause it's just don't do that. Don't ever grab a tiger's tail. That's the moral of that story, I guess.
I mean, unless it was like.
Okay, here's the new thing I want you to add. I have a feeling some of you have already done this a few times, and I think you'll like it. Alliteration.
Oh yeah, I know this.
What? Well, Nathan, tell us, what is alliteration?
So alliteration is whenever you use the same, when you kind of like, it's kind of like a parallelism 1, but you have to have the same letter starting for each word, like the strong, sufficient, slow hero, the big bad buffoon.
Okay, very nice. Now I'm gonna alter what you said just a couple of ways, tweak it a little bit. That was very good. First of all, it's the same sound. In English, not necessarily the same letter. So the Pharaoh's fish alliterates, even though Pharaoh starts with PH and fish starts with F, because they both make a right? Or English has some sort of insane letters. You know, like C just doesn't know what to do. C is a little bit schizophrenic or something. I don't know. It's got a split personality. Sometimes it makes a S sound. So I could talk about the silver ceiling. I have an S and a C, but sometimes it makes a K. Like the kingly cat. Yeah, or the king's clanging or something like that. So it's okay if your words don't have the same letter. They have to have the same sound. Second of all, they do not have to be in a row. If they are all in the same sentence, this is okay, because sometimes it's hard to think of 3 in a row. So the I'm trying to do one. I came up with a bunch of them yesterday. The crazy cat tried to catch a mouse. Crazy cat tried to catch. I put tried to in the middle, but it still alliterates. And it's nice if you have at least 3. But if you make every single word in the sentence, you've written a tongue twister, not Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, she sells seashells by the seashore. You don't have to go that far, all right? You don't have to write a tongue twister. So if you have 3 words in a sentence, at least 3 words, that start with the same sound. Oh, I just did it. Start with the same sound. But I put words in between. Start with the same sound. That's alliteration right there. Okay? I would like to see all of these, not in every paragraph, but in your paper. Would you please, pretty please, mark them in the margin for me? Put a little P1, P2, SV, S, or A, just with a pencil, after you print it out or something. It really helps me. If you mark it in the text, I still have to look for it. But if I see them all lined up so nice and neatly in the margin, like, oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He did them all, and it makes it easier for me. You don't have to underline it. I'll know which one you mean. If you did it well, I'll know which one you mean. Yeah, Nathan.
So I forgot to label the strong verb, but I did everything.
I do try. If you don't label, I do try to look. And I usually give you credit for some verb that seems particularly strong to me. You know what I mean? But it really helps me to know what you intended it to be. Sometimes I don't know if you don't mark it. And also, it just takes me a lot of extra time, because some weeks I have over 40 papers to read. Do you know what I mean? And so it just takes me a little bit of time, and it saves me, and also then I don't accuse you of not doing it because I can't find it. All right, thank you. So that's the second thing I want you to do this week. I want you to read Dorothy Mills chapter 10 about the voyages of discovery. I want you to write a speech, a rousing speech in Rivendell, making me feel like that ring should be destroyed or kept, as the case may be. And I'm looking forward to hearing who you are. I feel like with this crew, I'm going to get some interesting stuff. For our last, we got about 20 minutes left. Let's talk about the beginning of the Two Towers. Let's talk about Boromir first. Is Boromir a good guy or a bad guy?
In the middle.
Okay, you explain yourself first, and then Nathan can explain himself. Why is he good?
Because he's wanting to destroy the ring, and then he helps to protect the hobbits.
He did. Did he really want to destroy the ring? What did he say at the council? What did he seem to want? Do you remember? Okay, Nathan.
Alright, so I think that he's in between because number one, he attacked Frodo for the ring.
He did attack
He kind
Frodo.
of forced Frodo to put on the ring. He did protect the hobbits.
He did protect the hobbits.
And in the Council of Rivendell, he was like, "Hey, maybe we should keep it and destroy our enemies." Oh wait, I was thinking of Aragorn.
You're thinking of Aragorn. Well, the two men. Yeah. Here's one thing I like about Boromir at the council. He didn't want to destroy it. He's like, my city is being besieged. We're on the front lines. Rivendell is way up in the north. We are right. We can see the clouds from Mordor. And I need this. I need this ring. But when the council, we're going to destroy it. We're going to take it south. He did it, right? He didn't, well, I'm leaving. You guys can do it. Like, okay, if that's what the wise have decided, I will go with that. Here's another thing to think about Boromir. What is his station in life? Who is his dad? Gondor, Minas Tirith and Gondor. He's not exactly the king. Denethor is his dad. His dad is the steward. It's been years, I'm talking centuries, since there's been a king in Gondor. Who is the king? Well, I mean, who is the actual who should be king of Gondor? Do you know? Aragorn is Gondor. Aragorn is. So Boromir, but Boromir,
It's called-
what?
I wonder why the last book is called That Will Never.
Oh, Return of the King. Yes. So, so think about this. Boromir's dad and grandpa and great grandpa and great great grandpa have been the stewards. The city's been entrusted to them, but there hasn't been a king. So basically, somebody said he's the king. Basically, he is like the king. Technically, he's not the king. He's not from the king family, but there is no king as far as they're concerned. So imagine you are Boromir. You grew up in the palace. Your dad is in charge. You're the prince. Do you think you're used to giving orders and having them obeyed, maybe? I feel like maybe. Really used to getting your own way. And then he shows up and he's just one of a bunch of people at a council. He says, we had dreams. We're seeking advice. And he gives what he feels is really good advice. And they shut him down. How does that feel? Wait, but I'm in charge, basically, where I come from. I'm the steward's right-hand man. You're not going to agree. You're going to do what I want? Not to mention, pile this on. Aragorn stands up and says, I am the heir of Isildur, the last king. Basically, Aragorn stood up and said, I'm your king. I'm the king. Boromir's like, no, my king. You don't look like a king. What are you talking about? And think what this means for Boromir. I mean, we all know Boromir died. But imagine he didn't. He goes back. What happens when Aragorn comes? What happens to Boromir's dad? He's not king anymore. Boromir's not in charge anymore. Do you see where I'm going with this? Oh my goodness, Boromir was pretty good about that. To go on a journey with this man who's basically going to boot his dad off the throne. And to obey the guy who he doesn't even like his advice. He doesn't think he's doing the right thing. So, you know what? Boromir does a lot of, can't we go to Minas Tirith? Please, can't we go to Minas Tirith? Let's go to Minas Tirith instead of Mordor. I don't know that I blame him, if you know what I mean. He's just being a good prince of the realm of Gondor and trying to take care of his people and his dad. So let's talk about that. He tried to take it from Frodo. He followed him. And this is one thing, those of you who have seen the movies, like I said, it's kind of unfortunate to see the movie first, but there are a few things that they did really well. And one thing is they used a lot of words straight out of the books. And this is one of those moments. Boromir comes up and he says, it could be mine. It should be mine. Give it to me. Think about that. Just think about it a minute. It could be mine. That's sort of neutral. It could be mine. It's not, but it could be mine. It's a little bit of a jump to, it should be mine. Do you see the difference between could and should? It could possibly be mine. Now, it should be mine. It is reasonable that it should be mine. And it's just a little jump from it should be mine to give it to me. It starts with it could be. He's entertaining an idea in his mind. Could be mine. It should be mine. Give it to me. And it blows up on him. So back to to Asher and Nathan, talking about, is Boromir the good guy or the bad guy? And we said that he protected the hobbits with his life. He tried to protect Merry and Pippin. I think there's two really great things that argue for Boromir being the good guy in the end. One of them is, do we see evidence in the books that the presence of the ring changes people? Can you think of an example of someone who changed what? Bilbo, even just the sight of it in Rivendell around Frodo's neck just made him have a meltdown. Gollum sure changed. And I was thinking about this because Boromir doesn't have the ring, like he's not holding the ring, but he changes. Can you think of someone that we've met so far that changed just from desire of the ring or like knowing that the ring was in the world? What? Thorin didn't really want the ring. He wanted the Arkenstone, but he didn't really know about the ring. But there is a character that knows about the ring and has changed. Saruman. Yes, Saruman doesn't have the ring. Saruman is nowhere near the ring. But Saruman is warped, right? Because he wants it. The ring kind of messes you up. So here's Boromir. He's been traveling with the ring. He's been sleeping near it every night for weeks and weeks and weeks. You know, stronger men than Boromir, stronger creatures than Boromir have been warped by the ring. No.
He was warped by the Arkenstone.
And Thorin was a little warped to begin with. I mean, dwarves in general tend to be greedy. That's just their nature. And you know what? Tolkien didn't make that up. Do you remember Andvari's hoard from the Children of Odin book? The dwarf who turned himself into a fish to swim in front of the cave to guard his treasure, you know? And that Odin and Loki went and took it to pay to Otter's dad. Yeah, so dwarves are like that a bit. But Boromir did something else that we should all do when we do the wrong thing. And just, you might not know where I'm. He apologized. He confessed. He confessed and apologized. Aragorn knelt beside him. Boromir opened his eyes and strove to speak. At last, slow words came. I tried to take the ring from Frodo, he said. I am sorry. I have paid. His glance strayed to his fallen enemies. 20 at least lay there. He took out at least 20 orcs before they took him down. That's a lot. They have gone. The halflings. The orcs have taken them. I think they are not dead. Orcs bound them. He paused and his eyes closed wearily. After a moment, he spoke again. Farewell, Aragorn. Remember, Aragorn, the guy who's on the way to bump his dad off the throne. Farewell, Aragorn. Go to Minas Tirith and save my people. I have failed. No, said Aragorn, taking his hand and kissing his brow. You have conquered. Few have gained such a victory. Be at peace. Minas Tirith shall not fall. Boromir smiled. Which way did they go? Was Frodo there? Said Aragorn. But Boromir did not speak again. Aragorn said to him, you have not failed. You have conquered. But he's dying. How did he conquer? What did he conquer? What do you think?
Conquered the want of the ring.
Conquered the want of the ring. Stronger than orcs. Stronger than orcs. And probably a worse fate, because orcs can only kill you. The ring can turn you into a wraith. The ring can turn you into something nasty. Aragorn forgives him. I love this scene. Boromir did the unthinkable and the worst, but he fessed up and he said, I'm sorry. And Aragorn says, no. You've conquered. You're awesome. You're awesome. Well, they don't have time to bury him, do they? Because they got to follow the orcs and they got to rescue Merry and Pippin. So you remember they put him in a boat and send him out over the falls in a very sort of Viking-ish way. Yes. Do you know? Okay, this has nothing to do with our class, really, but it's cool. Um, Years ago, because you guys know, my daughter just got back from New Zealand, and she's a big Lord of the Rings fan. And so when I first, read the books to them, and then I let her see the movies, they had a traveling exhibit. It was stuff from the movies, and it came to Indianapolis. And because she was so into it, we drove all the way to Indianapolis to take her to that. Are my two oldest. The two others were too young really to appreciate it. We drove, and they had props from the movie there that you could see, and some special effects stuff.
Like that they used in the movie?
And one of them was Boromir in the boat. They had it under glass, and it was the one from the movie. And I'm telling you guys, this dummy of Boromir in the boat, because it's not really him, every vein, every muscle, it looked, well, it looked dead because he was dead in that scene, and also it's not moving, but it looked like an actual human being, in a coffin or something. It was just with all the weapons laid on him and everything. It was what they used. It was stunning, stunning. They did this, and then they do something interesting that I don't know that we would do. I don't know the last funeral I went to where this happened, but I think we should start it up again. They push him out, and then it says, "For a while the three companions remained silent, gazing after him. Then Aragorn spoke. 'They will look for him from the White Tower,' he said, 'but he will not return from mountain or from sea.' Then slowly he began to sing. 'Through Rohan, over fen and field, where the long grass grows, the west wind comes walking, and about the walls it goes. What news from west, O wandering wind, do you bring to me tonight? Have you seen Boromir the tall, moon or starlight? I saw him ride over 7 streams, over waters wide and gray. I saw him walk in empty lands until he passed away into the shadows of the north. I saw him then no more. The north wind may have heard the horn of the son of Denethor. O Boromir, from the high walls westward I looked afar, but you came not from the empty lands where no men are.'" I'm not going to read the whole song, because then Legolas sings about the south wind. He quizzes the south wind. "Have you seen Boromir?" And then Aragorn sings again, "The north wind. What news of Boromir the bold?" And then it says, "So they ended. 'You left the east wind to me,' said Gimli, 'but I will say naught of it.'" Gimli's too upset. Like, I can't sing the song. They made up a song about Boromir to send him on his way. And this reminds me of something that happens when the three of them show up in Rohan. Remember, they've been chasing these orcs. Yes, go ahead, Asher.
Let's ask them what
Oh, yeah.
Can we make like a kind of like a backstory or something?
I would love for you to do that. It doesn't have to be his whole life story, but
It can be like whatever.
it can be whatever. Use your imagination. This is partly an essay and partly a creative writing experience. So you can add as you want. It's a good question. Do you remember they showed up in Rohan chasing those orcs, and Éomer, writer of Rohan, whose uncle is Theoden, the king, they encounter them, and Éomer is on his guard. He's got orcs running through his lands. Saruman is their next door neighbor, and they know he's up to no good. He's a little suspicious, with good cause. And, well, who are you? Who are you, and what do you want here, basically? And he says, "Well, we're hunting orcs. We have friends that have been stolen by orcs." He said they would be like children to you. And they said, "Oh, we killed the orcs. We didn't see any kids." "Yeah, we do not speak of dwarves or children," said Gimli. "Our friends were hobbits." "Hobbits," said Éomer. "What might they be? That's a strange name." "A strange name for a strange folk," said Gimli, "but these were very dear to us. It seems that you have heard in Rohan of the words that troubled Minas Tirith. They spoke of the halfling. These hobbits are halflings." "Halflings?" laughed the rider that stood beside Éomer. "Halflings? But they're only the little people in old songs and children's tales out of the north. Do we walk in legends or on the green earth in the daylight? Are we living in fairy tale land? It's like if somebody said, 'I'm looking for Rumpelstiltskin.' what have I? I'm looking for my fairy godmother. Like, what is happening? Am I walking in fairy tale world or the real land? Here's Aragorn's answer. A man may do both, said Aragorn, for not we, but those who come after will make the legends of our time. The green earth, say you? That's a mighty matter of legend, though you tread it under the light of day. Who makes the songs and stories? The people after you. Boromir didn't make the song. Boromir didn't know he was living a song. But after he died, they made a song. And I'd like to think that they took that song to Minas Tirith and they sang of Boromir sometimes in memory of him. We don't know who's making the legends today, if you know what I mean. By legends, I don't mean made up. I mean legendary acts. Like we think of the guys who stormed the beaches of Normandy in D-Day. They're matter of legend, right? Even though some of them are still alive. You just never know. Maybe you're one of the legendary ones. We don't know. Frodo didn't think he would be, right? He's just a nobody hobbit. Hobbits certainly didn't think they'd change the world. We don't know what God has in store for us. Maybe one of you is a game changer. So, you know what? Do your work well. Study what study to the best of your ability. Do what you're given because you're getting ready for something, and it may be something big. Or we might be, I'm not very important. I just do my little thing. I'm a mom. I have kids. But if that's what I'm being given, I'll do it well. You know what I mean? Maybe there won't be any stories about Mrs. Ferguson and songs. But you just never know. You never know. Have to be ready, right? Boromir did the best he could, didn't he? And he went out with a bang. He confessed, and he protected and defended. Okay, so I would like you to read chapters 5 through 9 of the. We didn't get any time to talk about the Ents. We have 2 minutes. What kind of creatures are Ents? Like, what's their person? Well, they're tree-ish. They're tree herds. What's their personality like?
Neutral.
Okay.
They're not for good, but they're not really for bad either.
They're not for good or bad.
They just want to stay out of everything.
They do kind of want to do their own thing. Are they going to be able to stay out of everything?
No.
Why not?
Because people are like chopping them.
What people specifically? And who are these orcs were in the work? Is their employer? They are not orcs of Mordor. Saruman is making a race of orcs. Listen to what Treebeard says. He says, I gotta find it. Okay, I can't. All right. I think I understand what he's up to. He's plotting to become a power. He has a mind of metal and wheels. He does not care for growing things, except as far as they serve him for the moment. He says he is breeding orcs who can run in the sunlight. He's doing a hybrid orc. He's doing genetic experiments, is what he's doing. He's got wheels and metal. He's got factories. He's got genetic experimentation. And it says he and his foul folk are making havoc now. Down on the borders, they're felling trees. Good trees. Some of the trees they just cut down and leave to rot. Orc mischief, that. But most are hewn up and carried off to feed the fires of Orthanc. There's always smoke rising from Isengard these days. Why? For his machinery. His machinery that's making weapons and doing genetic experiments. This is science gone wild at Orthanc, at Isengard. He is. And I'm just going to throw one last thing out before I let you go. Sometimes it's interesting to know what happened to an author and why they said things. Mr. Tolkien fought in World War I. And he saw the first war that was machinery war, if you know what I mean, where there were planes. This is the time of the Red Baron, if you've heard of the, Baron von Richthofen. Yes, exactly. Just little planes. But they also notoriously gassed people in World War I. And there's a famous poem that describes the effects of dying of being it's ghastly. And so Tolkien was not a big fan of technology, shall we say, because he saw how people die from technology. Saruman is the techno wizard. And some people have speculated and they've wondered how much of World War I went with Tolkien into Saruman as one of those ringleaders of finding destructive types of technology. Okay. Yeah, read 5 through 9, do your paper, chapter 10 of Dorothy Mills. See you next week. Awesome. Have a good week.
Have you, after I've seen them review,